Malachi Ghost Reynolds was a name whispered in the streets of Detroit with both fear and respect. At 30 years old, he was one of the top-ranking drug lords in the Vice Lords, moving weight directly from the Mexican cartel. With his hands in everything from heroin to fentanyl, he built an empire that stretched from the crumbling projects of the East Side to the high-rises downtown. But it wasn't just the drugs that made Ghost a legend, it was the way he moved. No one ever saw him coming. No one ever saw him go. That's how he got his name. Even the feds, who had been watching him for years, couldn't pin anything solid on him. He was always 3 steps ahead. But there was one thing he never saw coming: betrayal. Ghost sat behind the wheel of his pride and joy, a midnight blue '96 Chevy Caprice, sitting on 26-inch chrome Forgiato rims. The engine purred as he tapped the gas, cruising down Jefferson Avenue, the city lights reflecting off the hood. Detroit was his city. It was cold, hard, and dangerous, just like him. Sitting next to him was Kenya, his ride or die, or so he thought. She was beautiful. Smooth brown skin, deep dimples, and a body that turned heads. But it wasn't just her looks that had Ghost hooked. Kenya was smart, studying to be a lawyer, and the daughter of a well-respected judge. She was supposed to be his way out of the game. "You good, baby?" Ghost asked, glancing at her as he rolled a blunt with one hand, his diamond-encrusted Rolex catching the glow of the streetlights. Kenya smiled, placing a hand on his thigh. "Always, Poppy." She leaned over and kissed his neck, but in her mind she was already thinking about how she'd get away with his murder. What Ghost didn't know was that Kenya had been seeing someone else, Darius D-Rock Simmons, one of his top lieutenants. D-Rock had been Ghost's right-hand man for years, but greed had taken over. He wanted the money, the power, and most of all, Kenya. It started small, skimming a little off the top, hiding money Ghost would never notice. But then Kenya whispered a different plan in his ear late one night while he laid next to her in bed. "We could take everything, baby," she purred, running a finger down his chest. "All we gotta do is take Ghost out." D-Rock hesitated at first. He knew what Ghost was capable of, but the more Kenya talked, the more he started to see the vision. With Ghost gone, he would control the whole operation. The cartel wouldn't care who ran Detroit as long as the money kept coming. And so the plan was set. Ghost sat in his private club, the Velvet Room, a dimly lit lounge reserved for his inner circle. The walls were lined with gold accents, and a chandelier hung above, casting shadows over the leather seats. D-Rock walked in, his face blank, but his heart raced. Tonight was the night. Ghost was supposed to die in his own club, a place he thought was untouchable. "What's good, my boy?" Ghost greeted, slapping palms with D-Rock. "Sit down, pour yourself a drink." D-Rock sat, but he barely heard Ghost's words. His mind was on the weight of the Glock 17 tucked in his waistband. Just then, Kenya walked in, dressed in a red bodycon dress that clung to her curves. Ghost's eyes lit up, but he didn't notice the way D-Rock looked at her. Kenya slid onto the couch next to Ghost and placed a hand on his chest. "Baby, let's celebrate," she whispered. "We're about to be set for life." Ghost nodded, exhaling a cloud of smoke. "Damn right. Cartel just gave me the green light to push harder. We about to flood the streets." Kenya forced a smile. She hated everything about this life. That was why she needed him gone. D-Rock shifted, his fingers brushing against his gun. His cue was supposed to be when Kenya went to the bar. As soon as she walked away, he was to put 2 slugs in Ghost's head. But Ghost wasn't a fool. "I ever tell you about the time my own cousin tried to snake me?" Ghost said suddenly, flicking ash off his blunt. His tone was casual, but his eyes locked onto D-Rock. D-Rock swallowed hard. "Now, what happened?" Ghost smirked. "I found out before he could make a move. Ain't even let him see it coming." The tension in the air was thick. Kenya's heart pounded. She stood up, heading toward the bar. This was the signal. D-Rock shifted, hand gripping the Glock. But before he could pull it, Ghost moved. Quicker than anyone expected, Ghost drew his own pistol from the cushion beside him and fired. Bang, bang! D-Rock slumped forward, 2 holes in his chest, blood pooling onto the leather seat. His gun never even left his waistband. Kenya turned, eyes wide in horror. "Baby, Ghost stood slowly, his face cold as steel. Shut up! Kenya backed away, her mind racing. I didn't. You thought I ain't know? Ghost stepped closer. I been new. I just wanted to see how far you'd take it. Tears filled her eyes. Please, Malachi, I love you. Ghost laughed, shaking his head. Nah, you love power, you love money, but you don't love me. He pressed the barrel of his gun against her forehead. She sobbed, shaking. Ghost inhaled deeply, then lowered the gun. Get out. Kenya gasped. You heard me. Get the fuck out before I change my mind. She hesitated, then turned and ran out of the club, disappearing into the night. Ghost sat back down, exhaling smoke, watching as D-Rock's blood seeped into the floor. Betrayal was a part of the game, and Ghost never lost at the game.